Hello there. In this video I will be talking about the role of stats in my upcoming RPG Moral Spirit. If you want to know what it is, I suggest you watch my gameplay video where I explain the basic gameplay mechanics of it. Without further ado, let's get into the video. In Moral Spirit, you don't have traditional hit points, instead they are called resolve. If you've played any RPGs, or any game with health for that matter, you will know that if a character's health is 0, they are considered either dead or unconscious. However, unlike most RPGs, where you would need revival items or spells to get unconscious characters back, in this game you can just simply heal that fallen character and they will get back up. No revival moves necessary. The thing is, I just think the idea of revival moves feel a bit redundant, since I would need to do extra programming work just to implement something that could have been just streamlined entirely. It also makes sense in the context of the game, since no combat is actually involved, and the characters don't die or even get knocked out if their resolve reaches 0. The elements in Moral Spirit are split into 5 different types: Threaten, Playful, Comfort, Reserved, and Psychic. As I said in my previous video, different characters have different weaknesses and strengths to these elements. Although it deviates from traditional RPGs in terms of what these elements represent, mechanically it works the exact same as, say, for more traditional RPG elements such as fire, ice, electric. But I also did something with these elements that many RPGs neglect to do. The stats that exist in the game are strength, vitality, dexterity, agility, and guts. At first glance, these stats don't look different from the types of stats seen in more traditional RPGs. However, they gear more towards determining the effectiveness of certain types of moves, rather than dictating how likely a character is to dodge something, who will go first, or score a lucky hit. Strength is what controls the effectiveness of threat-type moves. The more strength you have, the more efficient you would be at threatening people. For instance, a glare from a muscular person may look more threatening than a glare from a non-muscular person. Vitality is what controls the effectiveness of resolve healing moves and comfort type moves. I like to think of vitality as resembling the idea of turning the other cheek in selflessness. I did intend this to be the stat that controls defense, back when this game had combat earlier in development. But more about that in another video. There is a stat which controls your defense against these moves though, which is guts. I like to think that when you have more guts, you can be more resilient towards the effect of certain words or actions. Even though an insult may hurt you on the inside, metaphorically speaking, you may still have the guts to persevere and not let the insult affect you too much mentally. Dexterity is what controls the effectiveness of reserve type moves. Reserve type moves often rely on logic and reason rather than emotions to express. Therefore, if someone has good knowledge, they can reason their way out of an argument or come up with well-constructed points in a debate or question certain intentions. Agility is what controls the effectiveness of playful type moves. The playful are often fast talkers and constantly on their feet when it comes to things like joking or mocking, unless you're doing a dance that's very slow. I'll also quickly mention the elements that psychic type moves use. It uses both strength and dexterity, since psychic powers in this game are the equivalent of magic, although not exactly like magic you would see in a traditional RPG. I like to think of it as using the strength of one's dexterity to cast magic, or psychic powers. The thing that inspired this was the skill affinity system from Shin Tensei 4 Apocalypse. Although it is slightly different from what I did, they share similar concepts. In Shin Tensei 4, skill affinities are where a character has a plus or a negative level of compatibility with certain elements of moves. I'll show you this graph from the Megaten wiki. When the number is positive, the skill is more powerful and costs less magic points. When it is negative, it costs more magic points and does less damage. What I really like about this system was that it made you more intentful with the elements of the moves you assigned to your characters, and not just give them any ability. Although I didn't put things like cost reduction, I mainly wanted to replicate the element, no pun intended, of making the player more conscious about the types of moves they assign to their characters. I also wanted to make the elements of moves much more relevant to gameplay rather than just be a game of rock, paper, scissors. Many RPGs have you often look at a couple of stats for specific purposes. For example, if a character has high magic stats, you will know that they will be the best at doing all kinds of magic. It makes all elements of magical moves feel like the same spells, except with a different colour. and I wanted to make something different from that. I wanted to make the player more conscious about what elements they pick. In the next video I will talk about courage points and skills. That's all from me.